Welcome to the Bright Ideas Podcast.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Nice to be here, Trent. Thanks.
So for folks who aren't yet familiar with you or your company, let's start off with that. Perch, what's the company do? When did you start it?
Yeah, Perch started essentially January of 2020. And we buy great Amazon products and brands, and we add them to our technology platform, and we scale them internationally to other e-com marketplaces, and starting to get into brick and mortar and wholesale channels. And so really what we're doing is looking for the best of the best, and we want to take them to the next level.
So the industry description would be like an FBA aggregator. Do you guys call yourselves that?
Yes, that's an accurate description. We don't refer to ourselves that way because that seems a little bit too mechanical and financial oriented. And we truly believe we're buying brands that could be future household names. And that's what we think we're building as a company where we are, Amazon is one of the most competitive marketplaces in the world. And so if you've been successful on Amazon, and there's some other characteristics we look for, which we can talk about, but in general, you built a good product, right? If you have consistent profitability, you have a good ranking, you're not going crazy on ad spend to maintain that. In general, we find these to be very durable products and brands, and ones that we think have a right to be kind of more broadly enjoyed.
Yes, indeed. And folks in the audience, this is the third interview in a series that I've done with founders or leadership of companies that are in the FBA aggregator / roll-up space. So if you are looking for additional interviews, there'll be one with the founder of Thrasio, and there's also one with the founder of what was called Recon Brands, but they've renamed themselves now to Elevate Brands. But if you search for those in the search box on brightideas.co, you will be able to find them. So Perch today, 25 acquisitions, is that right? Or has there been another one since you and I talked?
There has been a couple more. So yeah, we're growing fast.
Excellent. Okay. So did you, right in the beginning when you got the idea that, hey, this is the thing I want to do, what happened after you got the idea of, hey, this is the thing I want to do? Just kind of like elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure. If you don't mind, maybe I'll back up a little bit before that and tell a little bit about my background, because that it feeds into why I thought this was a good idea. So really quickly, computer engineer by training. First job out of undergrad was doing product management, so designing and implementing software solutions. Learned a lot. That was at GE, actually, in Milwaukee, and learned a lot, but decided I didn't want to work at a company that size. So I got into sales, sold copiers and software for a couple of years, went to business school. And then after business school, I went to Bain & Co., where I worked about a third of my time in the private equity group, doing over 40 transactions with leading private equity firms. The other 2/3 of my time at Bain was helping retail and tech companies grow, doing things like B2B sales force effectiveness, pricing, new products, new markets, stuff like that. A lot of fun. After Bain, I joined Wayfair, where I helped build Wayfair's North America supply chain, what they now call the Wayfair Delivery Network. It was an amazing 3.5 years. I joined Wayfair when they were just over $1 billion in revenue. And so it's kind of a really pivotal inflection point for them. And in that 3.5 years, we opened 50 sites across North America, 42 final mile centers, 8 sort centers, delivering things like couches, vanities, and hot tubs. And one of the things I'm most proud of was while we were there, we went from an average, it took about a month on average to get a couch from Wayfair when I joined. Which is crazy in e-commerce to think about. And when I left, we were doing 2-day delivery of couches, hot tubs, and vanities. And so just really paradigm shifting for the Wayfair customer. And these are complex because they're in-home scheduled deliveries. So it's not like they can just drop the thing on your front doorstep 2 days later. We scheduled windows, we assembled couches. There's just a lot of variability in that. A lot of fun. But then I started looking for the next thing. I felt like I was running a team of about 1,300 across North America, across those 50 sites. And it was going really well, but I loved the early stages of Wayfair. I loved building, and I wanted to go do that again. And so when I found this idea, when I discovered more about Amazon and a third-party marketplace and these sellers, that honestly, I went to a conference down in New York and met a bunch of them, and I just think they're great people in general. They're just really bootstrapped entrepreneurs, have built something real and profitable with their own money. So I enjoyed that. But then as I thought about my personal experience, feels like the last decade of my career, 15 years of my career has been building to something like this, where I know M&A really well. I've done a lot of M&A transactions at Bain. I know e-commerce and supply chain really well. And supply chain is a really hard part of running these businesses. And then early in my career, worked on developing and designing scale software solutions, which is a really big part of what we're building at Perch. So when I started thinking about this idea, I just got more and more excited. Not only that this is a really exciting space and the space that was underserved in terms of entrepreneurs who wanted exits, but also something that just I personally feel like I could differentially be good at. So as I had this, saw this realization, had the idea, I started talking, as most people do, friends and mentors, got them to challenge me. Is this a good idea? How should I think about doing this? A lot of investors pushed me towards software, right? They said, don't actually buy the companies, just develop software that they can use, because that's a thing that a lot of investors like to underwrite is software as a service type of things. Because I just thought about
exactly what I do.
Yeah, which is a good business, right? As I thought about what I think we can build and where the value is, I think the real value is in taking these products and brands that are amazing and taking them to the next level. And it's possible to do that through software, but it's hard because you can't force people to use your software. You can't force people to enter Europe or to sell on Walmart. And not that we can force people to sell to us either. But at the end of the day, once we own the brand, we can get really aggressive with it, right? We know how to run supply chain. We know how to launch in Europe. We know how to launch on Walmart's marketplace, right? And so we can, my thesis was that we can be much more successful by taking these products and brands and taking them to the next level. So then I went, I thought about doing some of this with my own money at first. I started shopping for smaller businesses. I do okay, but I don't have enough money to buy a whole bunch of these with my own personal money. So I thought about doing it myself, but in parallel, I started talking to institutional investors because I thought to really do this, you need money, right? To buy companies. This isn't a business you can do over a few years with a computer. You need to get some cash and go out and buy some real businesses, especially because the thesis is that scale matters. These entrepreneurs have been really successful, but they get to a point where they don't have as much access to working capital. And a lot of them could hire a team, but they just don't want to, right? They get to a point where they're like, you know what, hiring people sucks. And I just don't feel like doing that. And for us to hire the best and the brightest, for us to be able to build a technology platform, technology, as you know, is more valuable the more you can scale it. Building an entire tech platform for 2 or 3 brands probably won't pay for itself. Building it for 100 or 1,000 brands, right? You can get meaningful scale leverage off that technology platform. And so I wanted to go big. I wanted to build scale so that we could do the things that I thought we could on the tech side, on the cost advantage side, like supply chain optimization, cost takeout, things like that. So I started shopping. I met with 50 different investor groups, and I got a lot of people saying, "Yeah, seems kind of neat. Not sure." Why don't you do software? A lot of people, you should just do software. And luckily for me, Alex, who's my lead investor at Spark Capital, saw it and he loved it and he thought it was a great idea. And so once I met with him, it moved pretty quickly. That's the way a lot of these investors work, is they see something they're excited about, they can move pretty quickly. And so I think we had a term sheet within a week or two, and we signed it. And then we started small, right? We bought a few really small businesses at first because we didn't want to buy something big and mess it up. And
let me jump in with some questions there on that, the fundraising, when you got the conversation with Alex. So when you're talking to Alex, you've not acquired a brand, correct? Yeah. So no brand, no cash flow, no revenue. You've got basically like 17 slides in your pitch deck and you got a term sheet off of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are you at liberty to disclose the pre-money valuation?
No.
Can you give us a range? Was it between 5 and 10 million, or was it over 10 million, or was it?
I'd say, call it 5 to 20.
Okay. Interesting. So this guy is basically looking at you and your background and thinking, okay, you're a smart guy. You've got lots of relevant experience and you've got this vision, which I happen to agree is a good vision. So we're going to basically make up a valuation out of air. I'm sure they have a formula for it, but more or less we're all kind of just throwing darts at a dartboard in the early days. And so how much are you able to disclose? How much was it? Millions or tens of millions that you raised? I would imagine it was only just a couple million initially.
Correct. It was not 10. It was below 10.
Yeah.
High single digits all in. With that, we were able to get some debt on top of it as well.
Okay. So some equity, some debt. What percentage of equity versus debt?
It was about 50-50.
And all from the same place?
No.
All from Alex.
No. Once I got the equity term sheet, then I went on the road shopping for debt. A lot of time talking to investors. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get the debt after you had the equity?
That first time, probably 3 or 4 months.
Okay. So a lot of pitching, pitch over and over and over.
A lot of work. Yeah. It's everybody likes to look back and say like, oh, these guys made it because they got some money, but it was not easy. Today, as people, I think, more and more investors are excited about the space. Back then, it was just a confusing, different business model. Yeah. It took a lot of pitching and a lot of conversations, and you just got to find the person that likes you. The other thing, frankly, that Alex and I had, we hadn't met each other personally before, but Spark was one of the first investors in Wayfair. I think the first investor in Wayfair. And so he'd been on Wayfair's board for a while. He had left the board before I joined, but I got a nice, I think, very good recommendation from Neeraj, the CEO and founder of Wayfair, and James, the CEO of Wayfair. So that helps as well.
That was the missing piece. And I think you told me that in our pre-interview and I had forgotten because there was, that makes a lot more sense. Because I'm like, wow, this guy's really, really aggressive investor. Here's this guy. He's never met him before. He's got 17 slides and he's like, yeah, let me write you a 7-figure check. Okay. So you close the round and what happens then? I'm assuming hiring.
A little bit. I didn't want to hire a whole big team of people and then not have a business. And so I had a friend from Wayfair who was leaving Wayfair and just helped out part-time, but mostly it was me we were in a WeWork, but a WeWork style kind of monthly office rental. And started calling all the brokers, right? We didn't feel like spinning up an outbound effort. So we started, calling all the brokers, digging through them. We hired some outside diligence support because we didn't want to make a mistake. Got a couple deals under LOI and kind of marched forward. I mean, the first few deals, right? Like right now, we have a really well-oiled machine, and we've gone from first call to closed in 13 days. That's abnormally fast. Usually, it's more like 30 to 40 days. Yeah. But we have a really well-oiled machine. But as you might expect, those first few deals, diligence took a really long time because we were just afraid of the unknown unknowns. Documentation took a while because we didn't have standard docs. And so we were kind of creating an asset purchase agreement out of thin air, and it didn't kind of, so it took a while. It took some time to make the first couple acquisitions. In parallel, I think my first employee started, we had a deal under LOI, but it hadn't closed yet. So once I got a deal under LOI, I said, okay, we might have a business here. Let me go hire one person. And then I made a second offer, and he started. I think we had 2 acquisitions closed at the time we started.